and we are live on YouTube. John, if you want to hit them with a "Hey there, Knicks fans," go ahead.
Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? Better than me, probably. It was a bit of a technological marvel that we are all here with you right now, but we are. So if that could happen, you know what else could happen? Not going to say it out loud, but
11.
So John is obviously here. I'm here, Andrew. Jeremy, say what's up to the people.
What's up? Excited for the 11th pick as well. Let's have fun.
And then Benjy, say what's up.
Hey, everybody. 11th pick is good. 11th pick will be
11th
fine.
is
We'll knock
good.
it out of the park.
we like 11.
Yes. So, since we've got about 15 minutes until it starts, what would you guys like to talk about?
Wait, can I start with some trivia?
Yeah, go right ahead. Please. Let's get this party started.
If we're going by win shares, not that we should need to go by win shares because it's pretty obvious either way. Who's the greatest 11th pick of all time?
Is it Clay?
Clay?
He may someday surpass the player who has, I think, as of right now, like triple his number of win shares. But
Ooh.
similar.
Wait, was Reggie Miller drafted 11th overall?
Yes.
There it is.
There it is. Okay.
So, something
Well
about
done.
shooting and number 11, I guess.
So you're saying we can get a Hall of Famer at 11?
And actually, the person who some might say, I'm not sure I'd say it, but some might say, is the greatest shooter in Knicks history, was also drafted at number 11.
RJ Barrett wasn't drafted number 11.
I shouldn't have laughed
Had
at that.
Had to. Allen Houston is not drafted by the Knicks.
Yes, but he was drafted.
Greatest
number
shooter in Knicks.
No, Allen Houston.
Oh, so it is Allen Houston. Okay, I thought you were saying like
drafted by the Knicks at 11.
Yeah.
Not
Jeremy
the 11th
had the
pick.
same confusion I did.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
All right.
the greatest Knicks draft pick at number the Knicks have drafted at 11 several times. Unless I'm missing someone, none have had a particularly notable NBA career.
Knicks have drafted 11 several times. Just absolute perfect mediocrity.
Yes.
Something you don't want said
Okay.
about your franchise. We've drafted 11 many, many times.
Listen, different tenure, different regime. New year, new me. All right.
Yeah, I mean, nobody drafts 11 like us.
All right.
Can I tell you what my strategy was today?
What's up?
To write an entire newsletter about getting the 11th pick.
So you've already written the.
Oh, for tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
only for us to fall to 14.
It'll work for 12 as well, or 13 or 14. But basically, a letter about drafting in the late lottery and the kinds of trades that come with landing in that spot. Although, here's a good question for everybody before we find out what's going to happen. Do you guys think it is more likely that the Knicks make this pick if they are at 11 or 12 or 13, or if they move into the top 4?
I think they make it regardless.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit hard for me to say without having really dived into the top 4 and the players that are there. But from what I understand, you're getting a potential stud in that position. And so I would think that they would take the draft pick. I think it's more likely, if that's true, I think it's more likely they move it at 11, which is basically just likely more depth, young depth, which they have a lot of already. I would assume that it makes it more likely they'd move it. But I don't know. Go either way.
it's interesting you take it from that perspective, because I look at more from the perspective of what can they get with the pick. I agree with you. They do have a lot of young depth. But the 11th pick is going to get them. It's funny because I went through as part of this, what will hopefully be an exercise in futility, trades involving picks over the course of the last 10 or 15 years, where someone traded a pick in the kind of the latter part of the lottery for an established player. It doesn't happen that often. The most recent time it happened was actually pulled off by Walt Perrin when he traded the 12th pick in the 2016 draft for George Hill, of all people, in a three-way trade. That's why Utah ended up with, yeah. You look like you want to say something, Ben.
George Hill, who remained in the Bucks rotation despite doing absolutely nothing after Javon Carter played really well.
That's correct.
That George Hill.
That George Hill, yes. And this was 6 years ago. So, we sent out the pick that became Taurean Prince. But, it doesn't happen, that often. The 8th pick, which was used on, oh my goodness, a center who ended up not doing much of anything with his career, was traded for Jason Richardson. Of course, the name of that player is escaping me right now. But yeah, it's like, there's like middling players that have been traded for now. You move up a little bit, you could get some better players like the Ray Allen one. You want to throw Antoine Jameson in there, although he's not quite the level of player that you expect to get for the 5th pick in the draft, which is what he was dealt for. But I don't know. I'm just fascinated by the notion of what can be had if you trade a pick in the lower range versus what you could get by trading a pick in the higher range. And I just think if they get into that 4, it's going to open up some interesting possibilities. That's the only reason I asked the question.
It'll be a test, at least, for the whole youth movement mindset. Because if they trade out in some capacity, then you hope it's for someone who is on a similar trajectory as the younger players. And if you trade up similar, you're maybe consolidating the youth in a little, in some sort of way. But if you're trading out for a player who is, 27, 28, maybe older, that would fit more the Julius Randle window, that would not be a wise decision in my mind.
I think the list of players that they would trade a top 4 pick for is of players who are likely to be available on the trade market, is like just, it's the names we've already been talking about. It's Donovan Mitchell, it's Zion. I'm trying to think if I would even add anybody. The SGA is another one that I would add, only because we already heard rumors at leading up to last year's draft that there were potentially efforts to package SGA with the 5th pick to move up to number 1. So that's another one that I would keep an eye on. Other than those names, though, I don't know. I don't think there's no other one that is obvious to me, at least. Like the note. Yeah, Andrew, what?
No, they're saying there's an echo again. Oh, because Benji's mic is on.
Mic.
Okay. Can I mute him? Do I have that capability?
Mute him on Zoom?
Oh, you're smart, Jeremy.
I try.
Mute. I did it.
Great.
Okay. Is the echo still there, everybody?
We should probably.
Rich,
Still
why do you hate me?
I just hope it's not anything I'm doing.
You know what? It might also be because of Benji's mic on the
Okay.
well.
Benjy,
He may have left. Yeah.
Hold on. I have to unmute him on Zoom.
I'm so happy that you're doing all this, Andrew.
Okay, permission to speak freely?
What world would it be where
Who
Andrew
else
is
would
not
be doing
this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I meant to mute. I'm sorry if I failed to.
You're good. I think this is going to be a catch and go thing.
Folks in the
tonight.
comments, are we still echoing? Are we good?
Is there still an echo? Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. Think it's good now. Wow, that's weird. So if someone leaves, there's an echo?
I guess so. Wow, that's an aggressive outfit
Wow. Okay.
Birdman.
Miami in the building.
What happened to
Birdman,
that
Birdman.
boy?
there. That's a person that chose to wear that outfit.
It's a
Rich
Birdman
Made
outfit.
the right decision. That was great.
I love
Rich.
Chris Anderson.
Rich McLeod, question. Rangers in 6 or 7?
3.
Rangers in 3. I dig it. Hell
Mm.
yeah.
Let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers. LFGR.
Hold on, I have it up now. Just to close the loop on the greatest Nick 11th draft pick ever. By win shares, it is someone that nobody here is going to know who this player is. Player by the name of John Warren went to St. John's, taken 11th in the 1969 NBA draft. Although the most notable 11th pick in Knicks history is probably, well, let's see here. I could have sworn I saw that. Where are you?
Pretty
Ernie?
wild that he did so well as a Knicks draft pick that they named the school after him.
I know, right?
It's just impressive.
Oh wow, okay, that was my bet. I thought Ernie Grunfeld was drafted by the Knicks. He was not drafted by the Knicks. He was drafted by the Bucks.
Okay. So I'll keep an eye on the super chat tonight because we just got our first one. Regular chat, I will do my best to multitask tonight, but man, am I multitasking?
I could do the regular chat.
John, the echoes that be coming in this chat tonight. I just need people to have the same screen open. So I don't know if that's the wisest, but I'll start here. Is there any prospect? This is from Vincent Belen. Is there any prospect in this draft that you would package Obi or quickly or both for? Wow.
Oh yeah, easily. Again, without having done a lot of the homework and just knowing what I've read about these players and watching the same amount of tape and highlights as probably most fans. I think that, honestly, I think the Knicks would probably package at least one of those players, if not both of those players, to move into the top 4 of this draft. That said, that's not a trade you see historically in NBA history. Like, again, just kind of going back and doing the homework and the research. Like, you don't often see like a young player who is like where Quickly or Obi are at in terms of their profile around the league. Now, obviously, we hope that they go on to become Hall of Famers, and maybe they do. But where they're at right now, you don't see a player of that caliber packaged with a pick like 11 or 12, usually getting you into a top 4 where it is kind of very clearly a top 4. Could it get you to like 5 or 6 in this draft? Yeah, but I don't think I'd do that. So that's how I'd go.
Jeremy.
Agreed. Would? Sure. And the reason I say sure is because I don't see it happening. As John's saying, the jump from 11 to top 4, it's improbable. I don't want to say impossible, but it's like pretty close to it.
They hear an echo on playback again.
Benjy,
do you have headphones?
Yes.
Can you go get them, please? Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Man, I hope this isn't my fault.
No, I think it's a Benjy. I think it's an audio thing that we all need to have headphones on.
Listen, if something that could be my fault, it probably is my fault.
So, John, do you know how to pop out the chat on YouTube?
No, I have my other laptop open still. So I'll just open it.
I can give you a life hack that'll make life easier.
You've given it to me many times. I just forget.
Right. So so open YouTube, like don't minimize playback or open up the YouTube tab. That's our screen, right?
Hold on.
Jeremy, do you know how to pop out the chat?
I do, but are we sure
Okay.
we want to do this right now?
If that'll make it easier. So if John wants to go through the regular chat, he can. I have another super chat, by the way.
Go for it.
This is from Kane Marco, the Mob General. Kobe was drafted 13. Giannis was drafted 15. Our 11th pick will be right in between those guys. Bet it now.
What am I betting now?
Wait. Oh, in terms of talent.
Yeah,
Not
talent.
In terms of, like, that would be the 14th pick, which it still could be, but.
To I Enjoy Peace in the regular chat on YouTube. He asked, does the Monroe tier get the playback link? Yes. Mello, Monroe, and Ewing tier get the playback link. Basically everything but the Starburger tier.
Oh, I
So
get
if you
it.
guys want to watch, we're literally looking at Dame Lillard now on our screen. So
I'll say this about, as far as, again, the talent that's available for that, again, it's supposed to be available in the 11-12 range here.
mhm.
I mean, I feel like when you're talking, this is just a very general comment. When you're talking NBA drafts, when you get into this range of the draft, you're often talking about a prospect that fits into one of these types.
Mhm.
Either there is a player who it's kind of seen as like a defined ceiling, and that ceiling is a very valuable NBA player, but someone who seems like he's going to be a role player. And then, but occasionally that player can become something greater than that. Like, I would say Donovan Mitchell was profiled by a lot of people as being a guy who is going to be a role player. And that's why he dropped to 13, because nobody thought a lot of things about Donovan Mitchell. And then there are other players, and I guess the first one who would come to my mind is probably Kawhi with the shooting, where it's like there's a lot of good stuff that you like, but there's just one thing that's missing, and there's really no indication one way or the other that thing is going to come around. So the notion that you can't get a star player at 11 is crazy. You can get a star player at 11. It's not apparent at the time that player is picked, which is why that player is picked at 11, and the players who are picked at, whatever, 1, 2, 3, and so on are picked there. And the guy that I'm thinking of is Dyson Daniels, who's the guy I think probably at this point most Knicks fans, knowing whatever they do about the lottery at this point, he's the guy that seems to be the one most people are a big fan of, because he's a big guard who defends. He could do a lot of different things. The shooting is a big question mark. So, but that's a guy, if they get him at 11 and the shooting comes around, well, now all of a sudden the Knicks have drafted themselves like a 6'7" guard who could potentially play point someday. Pretty exciting, but is the shooting going to come around?
Let me ask you, though, based on what we know with this front office, do you think that they would bank on if the shooting comes around as a prospect? Because that's something that they seem to deeply prioritize.
They did draft Obi.
But there's a difference between... So the Knicks don't care as much at the 4 of being like a plus shooter, but they seem to, specifically at the 1 and the 2. So that's
For
my
sure.
big kind of like rhetorical question is like, are the Knicks really comfortable investing in a player where they're still waiting for the shot to come around, or would they rather just kind of like focus on the guys who are more of the pull-up threats? Like, I'm not saying they have to be a shooter like Quentin Grimes, but at least that there is a clear-cut NBA skill. And not to say that Dyson Daniels doesn't have them, he obviously does, but that like it's a make or miss league. And if you're able to shoot the ball into the basket, then you're going to do pretty well for yourself from a team and player standpoint. So that's the reason why I wonder if Daniels is a fit based on what the Knicks like moving forward.
You might be right. And I think it's tough to make generalizations about this front office with 2 drafts under their belt, as much as Quickly profiled as a big time shooter, Grimes profiled as a big time shooter, McBride pull-up threat, as you've gone over many times. Jokic is like, yeah, sure, but
Yep.
he, for the most part. Whereas they had a chance to draft a kid last season in Keon Johnson, who I think fits the kind of the profile that I'm talking about. It's like, wow, this kid's a super athlete. Defensively, he could play some people thought he could play in the league right away. and I'm pretty sure, he ended up going 21. So they had a chance to draft him not once but twice, and they said thanks but no thanks, and they ended up with Grimes. So you might be right. I wonder if it makes a difference that it's a guy who profiles as like potentially a primary ball handler down the road. Especially this is also the organization that started out for Peyton all of last year. Big guard, switchable, drove a lot. I don't know. We'll see.
I think the Elf thing, though, the only difference there is like because he attacked the rim so frequently, like they care. Obviously, he was terrible at finishing, and he didn't drive and kick as much as he should have. But that's what the Knicks want in a point guard. It's also why they went after Kemba. They want that. I mean, Kemba obviously was not able to do that, but career-wise, he was very much of a pick and roll and driving point guard. And so it's kind of like unless they see that player doing that. And then it's also if you're I know Daniels could probably be a little bit more versatile given his size and length, but then how does having a starting, like how does him coming into the fold affect the rest of the team and the roster construction? Are you bumping quickly up into the starting point guard slot? If you're not, then how does that, like if you're getting someone else, how does that impact quickly? How does it impact Dyson Daniels? It's fascinating how they'll
But that's my bigger question generally is like, where is this? Whose playing time is this person taking? Which is why I started off with the question of like, what do we think it's more likely they trade the pick? If they stay at 11 or 12, or if they move up into the top 4? We don't know. Another super chat just came in from Juanon. Salute, fellas. By the way, I've always wondered this. So Juanon, the name. Jeremy. Ben,
offensive? Yeah.
Offensive or not offensive?
I wondered it this whole time.
Follow the holocrons. I don't know. Like, what is there to say? To each their own.
To each their own. Okay.
To each their own.
Not offensive enough to not answer a super chat.
There you go.
There you go. Our outrage can be bought.
Salute, fellas. Macri, still think Ayton is far-fetched. There was smoke back in December, and now there's flames, and they're climbing to the sky. Well, let's be very specific. There was smoke pre-trade deadline that I guess there were calls made or taken by the Indiana Pacers. No, made by the Indiana Pacers, and the phone was picked up by the Phoenix Suns, and we don't know how much further it got than that. I think there's a lot of smoke that he might not be a member of the Suns next year. I just don't know. For one, logistically, it's tough to do a sign and trade for a max player into a team that doesn't have cap space because of the base year compensation issues that I wrote about today and have been writing about, and Jeremy's obviously been talking a lot about. It would probably need to be a three-team trade where you're diverting what I would guess would be Dario Saric's salary to a cap space team. So then you have to pay a little extra premium there. Who's paying that premium? I just don't know that this is the Knicks' big move for DeAndre Ayton on a team with this. Like, he functioned. I mean, they didn't even win at all. That means that it was a bad way to go about things. But like, he functioned so great because he had Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and that Phoenix offensive ecosystem was just so specific in what they did and how they executed. And like, Benjy could speak to this probably more than me, but yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Nah.
Not much more to add. He's a dependent player. And that salary is not for a dependent player, or it shouldn't be, unless you know that you have the pieces around him that maximize him. And we don't have that. And I don't think that it makes sense.
Like the notion
I just don't.
Yeah, I think there may be a notion among some fans that like you're going to put Ayton on a team without Chris Paul and Booker, and it's like, oh, he doesn't have those guys to take away his possessions anymore, and it's going to be like, I'm just pulling this out of my ass, like James Harden going from OKC to Houston. Like, that's not what this is going to be. For one,
I mean, who are the max centers in the league?
There's 4, there's 6. Excuse me. It's Rudy Gobert and Bam Adebayo, who are in a kind of a one category in terms of what they bring primarily on the defensive end. And then there's Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic, and maybe there's only 5. I'm forgetting. Is there an obvious name I'm forgetting? No, that's it, right? So 5.
Unless Draymond is he on a max?
Well, I also don't consider. I mean, you want to throw Anthony Davis in there, but I don't consider Anthony Davis.
Right. There's an argument to be made that you can make him into a more of a primary where you jack up his post ups, you let him get more touches at the elbow and run more offense that way.
Which is clearly where the NBA is going.
Right.
Not just the NBA. Benji, how often do the Knicks post up?
For Julius Randle at the 3-point line, man, very often.
For centers.
Definitely never, but that also might be personnel related.
Yeah, but still, like, it goes back to they also have a clear-cut interest in a type of personnel.
Yeah, I just don't. It's not. It's because nobody wants to run offense that way, and for a reason. And like, he doesn't get to the line. He has flaws as a player that aren't going to be fixed right away. He doesn't stretch out to 3 right now. Maybe one day he will. Maybe one day he won't. Hard to know. He does not get to the free throw line. He does not attack the basket. He doesn't really dribble. Maybe he has one post hook, one post jump hook. That kind of, like, you're giving him a lot of money to be a guy who's basically a pick and roll finisher and a very good defensive anchor. I wouldn't say elite. He's not Gobert. And he's not Bam defensively. I think the Gobert max, as much as it assures regular season success, and I don't think you could call it a bad contract per se. Would I want to have that contract on my team right now? I'm not so sure.
But even that was very specific. What was Utah going to do?
And I think they did the right thing. I mean, this is a team that's been really good for a long time. Like, I understand that it's becomes like rings or bust kind of thing, but like, they've had basically assured success for 5 years now because of largely due to Rudy Gobert's defense.
I think we're close to showtime, by the way, guys.
I don't think Ayton gives you any assurances like that. I don't think he gives you assurances you're going to be a great offense. I don't think he gives you assurances you're going to be a great defense.
And you could even make arguments elsewhere. I mean, obviously it did not wind up working, but like, if there's a world where the Sixers kept Jimmy Butler and won a championship and Tobias Harris was their 4th best player, was it worth it? Or 3rd best player, I guess, in that case, because they probably would have gotten rid of Simmons. Would it have been worth it to pay Tobias Harris $38 million? Yeah, because you don't have to say any sorries if you win a title. And on that theoretical team where he's the 3rd cog after Butler and Embiid, like, it kind of makes sense. Does it make sense for any other team in the league to pay Tobias Harris even half of that? Almost certainly not. So this stuff is very team specific, I think, a lot of the time when you're talking about these numbers and the player types and all that.
Let me just state for the record that I'm anti this presentation. I'm anti the lottery. I'm here against my will. And
really,
this is a travesty, but I will enjoy it nonetheless with all of you.
Oh, because it incentivizes losing?
It's the worst thing about the league. We get to watch guys in, well, whatever Damian Lillard's wearing there. Sweat suit.
Sweat blazer?
Sweat blazer.
From Parish Duggar on Super Chat, 11 is fine. It'll make us draft a big wing defender.
There are some guys there. I mean, I think
Chris has been on that for a while in draft class.
Yeah, again, like, I think that fits into more of like, you know what you're going to get, and it's more of a meat and potatoes pick. But you want to talk about guys that could come in and
someone's going to screenshot that Knicks logo behind Dame. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
I'm glad it's
I already
just
see
off
it.
to the
Yeah,
center,
just
so we don't
off.
have to deal with it.
What about the
Sorry,
Hornets
John.
logo?
Yeah, he can enjoy his time in Charlotte. That's
They-
I want to do. Oh, go ahead. Finish, John. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I was going to make a joke. Dame for Gordon Hayward, who said,
There you go. So some housekeeping. First of all, Juanon apparently is Jewish, so he's like claiming that.
"Oh, that's what I
so.
assume."
Okay,
It
just making
doesn't
sure. He
make it
said-
okay on its own. I want to be clear. But however, I think we'll allow it without knowing the person. And he asked great questions on the super chat, and we assume the best.
If
Yeah.
my
Juanon.
if my YouTube was they go Wap Guinea, does it make it okay? I don't.
You're
think it's-
allowed to.
Which was actually my first AOL screen name, so that's why I bring it up.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe we could pronounce it Juanon.
Jewish.
Maybe that's how he
Anderson
pronounced it.
Varejao is in the world. Okay. PJ Washington representing the Hornets.
There's Worldwide
I learned a
West.
game from William Wesley. You can never check me. There you go.
That's a
Orange
face
tie.
he has on.
Blue shirt.
Mhm.
I like these
Wes
guys
Unseld
above the other
Jr.
guys.
Just
Shout out
watched his
Throne.
dad play in the finals.
Oh wow, the Admiral! They brought out the big guns.
Oh, and
Win
to
cash.
Karim in the regular chat, he asked, when is the lottery happening? So the lottery already happened. Brock Aller was actually there to see like the results of the lottery, and they're announcing everything in the chat on this show now for the rest of us.
Great outfit, Demonis.
Dame Lillard. There you go. There's the picture that gets screenshot. Dame Lillard with the Knicks logo behind him.
Can I ask a structural question?
What's up?
Please.
Why is it that you can only move up to the top four? Why are only the top 4 slots available through lottery? Why not lotterize every slot?
I think it still gives a benefit to teams that have lost a lot of games.
Yeah.
So, like, if you are the worst team in basketball, you will pick no lower than 5th.
Oh yeah, screw that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid
I
of
wish
that.
there were a way you could have that the higher odds are to the teams that are closer to the playoffs, but then you'd argue 2 things. Number 1, teams trying for the playoffs would just tank and not make the playoffs. And then number 2, the teams at the bottom would never get good.
Well,
Or
there's
great.
something I've wondered, and I cannot fathom how they would do it. 1, because I don't know how they would do it, and 2, because I don't know. But like, make the play-in mid-season tournament that they're talking about doing, have maybe an incentive for like.
Love it.
Yeah, lottery.
Hard to,
Okay,
hard to
what
motivate.
What do you think would happen if
Here we
Worldwide
go.
West just went to the 11th card down and put it like,
On the bottom.
yeah, just so
This asshole.
actually,
Mark Tatum.
Fuck this guy.
Seriously. I'll co-sign that, John. All right, good
What?
luck, everybody. Good luck,
Mm.
everybody.
So again,
the
just
New
so
York
everybody
Knicks
knows,
picking 11th. Oh, okay.
just so everybody knows, the Knicks have a better chance at picking. They have a better chance at picking 12th than they do in the top 4. So there is a world where if you make it to 11, you've already
Charlotte
won.
Hornets. All
Good.
right. 12.
Look, just don't be 12. That's
Don't
all
be
I
the
ask.
Knicks. Don't be the
Don't
Knicks.
be
Okay,
good.
cool.
Okay, see. All right. Please jump. Please
I've
jump.
accepted the fate.
Here we go.
This is so dumb, man.
Come on.
This is-
Come on.
This-
I just want it.
This is
It's
so
going-
dumb.
It's obvious. It's always gonna happen.
Oh, well.
Thanks for
Why is he
checking
All
in,
smiling
right.
like an
folks.
idiot?
Well.
Why is he smiling like an idiot?
Oh, man.
Because he
Fine.
knows the pick is not going to play more than 3 minutes
Yeah.
in the first 4 months of the year. I can't wait to never play this piece of shit. I don't even know what it's going to be.
Oh, man. This
I was
is
talking
chalk
about Wes
right now,
more
right?
that he was smiling.
It is.
This is chalk right
It
now?
is chalk. Still chalk. I feel like
All
the
right.
Blazers are going to get lucky here because it's Dame and they love, to just create some sort of narratives. I don't know what it would be. But, never mind. Screwed. Take that, Portland, I guess.
Wow, this is
The
really-
Kings.
Oh, the Kings. Okay.
Wait, the Kings. Oh,
Wow.
damn.
So the Kings were in the 7th spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that tanking.
It's actually really frustrating because the Kings are a very good trade partner with the Knicks, but now I don't know with that pick if they are going to be.
What did you have in mind?
Pissed.
Ooh!
Wow.
Interesting.
What I have in mind?
That means
something with like 7
they
for
were the fifth
11
pick,
and
never mind.
and some sort of asset, which they could still do. Don't get me wrong, with another team, but yeah.
so
The stupidity of having a representative sit there and just make faces is beyond me.
it's a. Is there a
Why
monetary?
is that? Why
thing?
is that necessary? They don't do anything. They just stand there.
Is what a monetary thing.
Like, hey, go represent us. We'll like pay you.
No,
Like, is this guy who they send? Are they an ambassador? Like
Dave
that-
makes $50 million
Alan,
a year. What are they paying him to show up?
Maybe it's part of his contract. You have to go to the lottery if you don't make the playoffs.
I
So-
think the reason they did it was as a way of reinforcing that he is not running from the grind, and with the pick he'll stay there, but who knows?
Sure.
John was. Rich just asked, were any of us alive the last time any of the Knicks moved up?
The Knicks only moved up. I mean, technically, they moved up in the first lottery. They moved up 2 spots to get Ewing.
Yeah.
The Knicks have never moved up since 1985. They've had 17 picks. They haven't moved up in any of them. They've moved down in about half the time. The only other team in the NBA with that similar run of futility is the only team in the league, as far as I know, that has never moved up with a commensurate number of attempts to move up, and that's Dallas Mavericks, who were first in the lottery in 1886 and have never moved up higher than their spot in 16 tries.
That was good, John. Wow. You're right. You're a writer.
It's just because I looked the shit.
I know. That's like you're flexing right there, showing off your brain.
So just real quick on the Kings thing. I mean, look, probably even if the Kings land at 4, this is off the table, but no, this is off the table.
Where are you going with it?
No, just like again, I don't think they would want Randall alongside Sabonis because that would just, that would be suicide on defense.
For the 2 pick, send it now.
No, I'm saying like let's just say for argument's sake, the Kings got 4. 11
4 and 4 and Sabonis for Randall, or 4 and Fox for Randall and 11.
They would,
and the Statue of Liberty.
I was thinking more like 11 Randall and some type of lottery or some type of protected. I don't want to say lightly protected. Some type of future first round pick with protections that does not carry off into the distance.
John,
for 4 and Barnes.
John, did one of the Eddie Curry picks move up in the lottery? No? Okay.
LaMarcus Aldridge was they were slotted at 2 that year and it went 2.
Okay. Now someone in the chat said the pick moved up. For clarification, I didn't know if that was something or not.
If it does, then if it did, then what was I going off of? Either real I think I was going off Real GM. They're usually pretty good with that stuff. But yeah.
Benjy, what would your solution or alternative play be for the lottery? Or how we reward these teams for losing or punish them for losing?
Yeah. My personal preference is the wheel system. I think that's very cool. If not just an open market.
Open market.
Open market.
Wow. It's like you have a draft slot, and where you finish determines the amount of money that you have. And you can maybe even do something like what baseball does with the international pool money, where you can trade that and you can give. So then you basically appeal to the player. So yeah, you could say, well, a star player doesn't want to go to like a very small market, but if they're offering the most money, then maybe that's something you consider, and they want to prioritize you, then they find a way.
And it's not an auction, right? It's
correct.
Literally a free agency. I'm
auction.
I'm thinking about optics, but obviously
it is not an auction.
So it's free agency. It's a free agent
if
pool.
You want to talk about player empowerment, that is as close to player empowerment as you get.
Yeah, and so hypothetically, you could sign like 4 players that are out of this with your allotted amount of money.
Yes, but it'll never happen because there's no one to really advocate in favor of these prospects. All right, the Kings going 4th.
Kings get 4.
Well, the Thunder are gonna get.
They moved them to center stage.
They did.
It's like American Idol out there.
Wow, the Thunder are really gonna get Chet, aren't they? Nope.
Wow.
Well, they might. They still might. But
the Magic.
This is.
They've got the number 1 pick 4 times in my life.
Yes.
I saw a thread today about how the Magic were deserving because, like, something with ownership. And I was like, you may want to look up the family that owns them. But
yeah.
I think
wow, what an accomplishment!
So I think this is really interesting because obviously they could go in a couple of different directions. Although I would be shocked if it's not Jabari Smith or Chet Holmgren, and. Man, what do they do now? I think this is really interesting because they're going to select obviously a big, and the fact that they moved up, they're going to get one of these bigs, which like does Jonathan Isaac have any trade value across the league? I guess we'll find out.
More like no Bamba.
Well, I think that ship.
I will say the
Should probably already
Kings
sell.
aren't going to take Ivy at 4 with Mitchell and Fox there.
Well, that's the other interesting one is it would actually be pretty, I don't know, would it be a 4D chess move to see what you could get for Fox now? If they really love Mitchell, and maybe, I don't know if they do, maybe they don't, I have no idea. But if they really love Mitchell and like they clearly did not want to play those two players together last year, because like, I don't know, whatever. They didn't want to play those two players together. And when they did play them together, or they didn't want to start them together, let me rephrase that. They didn't want to start them together. And when they did play them together, it was kind of a disaster. Do you see what you get for Fox now and take Ivy?
They're not going to, just because if everything reeks of desperation with Sacramento, that there is a strong desire to make the playoffs. It's why they got Sabonis. It's why they wanted to keep Fox. Their GM, Monty McNair, is in the last year of his contract. It has not been extended. Their owner has not had a playoff appearance this entire time, with the team. So there is a commitment to doing it. And I don't know how you trade Fox for a better player that vaults them into a better position.
So that's kind of what I'm wondering. Is there a trade somewhere in the league where, well, we could go one of two ways. What's the best you could get for Fox outright? Or can you package Fox with stuff, with like future draft equity, and like try to bring in a real guy? And who might that guy be? And probably not. Again, Benjy brings up a great point, which is that if Ivy's there and he's the guy that they want, or does it open them up to a trade up?
And frankly, would Detroit take Ivy with Cade? I think they probably would. It'd be interesting. They have Hayes too, but I don't think Hayes is worth quibbling over. But I do wonder if they would take Ivy. How far could he fall? Here's teams that are set at point guard.
If you are Detroit, are you offering 5 and Sadiq Bey for 4? Because if you're the Kings, you need wings. And you're already dealing with this whole Dante DiVincenzo issue of suppressing his value on the market. And I'm sure he'll still resign, but it's not great. But they need a lot of wings. They don't have it. So you drop down one spot, you can still grab a player that you like, pay a little bit less. I don't know. It's like the type of move that they could consider where they're adding a rotation piece who can win now and still get someone who's of a higher ceiling if they feel it.
I think another interesting question is how does this potentially impact where Shaedon Sharpe goes? Well, actually, I think there's two players we could talk about how the lottery falling impacts where they go. So Keegan Murray is kind of like outside of the top 4. Everybody kind of acknowledges as the safe guy. Oh, what happened? What happened?
Benjy.
What?
You guys are talking about Jonathan Isaac. Someone on playback goes, QAnon Isaac. Jason M goes, QAnon Isaac has no trade value. And Benjy replied, better than Juanon Isaac.
Well
Benjy,
done, sir.
You're like a top 5 favorite person of mine. Thank you for coming into my life and being yourself. That was amazing. Oh my God. From the chat, the super chat, what did we do to the basketball gods? This is from Abdoulaye Diallo.
I wish I knew.
Listen, I'm actually going to give a shout out to a YouTube commenter that makes his opinions known a lot. His name is XJ, because he and I got into it during the season when I pushed back against the merits of tanking. And it was like, if you're trying to jump, you got to have at least 7th best odds.
There are no merits of tanking.
But I'm with you. Like the merits of it and the morality of it, I will never root for the Knicks to lose, Benjy. But if you're just strictly looking from a probability standpoint, get your team to at least 7th worst and then like play the ball as it lies. And lo and behold, nobody jumps from 8 to 14 and the Kings at 7 jump up. So
This is like also the third year or so where a team has was 7th or 8th has jumped into the top 4.
yep, every year that they've had
yeah.
this new flattened odds, there's been a team that's jumped up. The Lakers, I think, threw me off that
The Lakers,
you
when they
can jump from
11.
12. You can jump
11.
from 11. Yeah.
Not us, not the Knicks.
Nope.
Only only the Lakers. I have a quick thought that I wanted to kind of throw out there. I wonder, the whole thing with the Pistons before was the idea of them potentially securing one of the bigs, who's each of whom are likely to go top 3 in Smith, Holmgren, Banchero in some sort of order. I wonder how them sliding out of that range affects their pursuit of a center, especially someone like Mitchell Robinson.
Interesting.
Well,
I like where your head's at, Jeremy.
they're picking what, 4th, 5th?
Mm-hmm.
Picking 5th.
They're picking 5th. Yeah, that's too high to go grab Jalen Duren, I would think.
Is 11 low enough?
Can I interest you in the best offensive rebounder in basketball?
Can't trade him.
Why not?
He's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Unless you're talking about Jericho Sims, who you also cannot trade.
Also can't trade.
I was talking about
Alright.
Nerlens Noel.
Sure.
Oh, yes. There we go.
Yeah.
Hardy Cooper.
You know what? Just Nerlens Noel for the 5th pick straight up and matching salary. That works.
Yeah.
Lottery talent.
Yeah. He actually went, what, did he go 6th overall?
I thought that was because of injuries, though, wasn't it? Am I
Right.
making that up?
But didn't
Yeah.
he eventually go 6th overall?
I think so.
Yeah. So you're moving
ahead.
down one spot, technically.
One spot.
Yeah.
One spot.
Worth it.
Mario Hazonia was like the 7th pick, right?
He was 5th.
5th, yeah.
So
The Knicks
JP.
had Moutier and Hazonia on the same team, and it was like, look, they have these top 6 picks everywhere.
Oh, great. The worst top 6 picks of all time together in one.
So 2 things. One, as we sit here and, well, I don't think many people are lamenting the fact that the Knicks stayed at 11, but for anybody who might be lamenting the fact that they stayed at 11, I am just happy, and this has to do with, like, you got to get the 7th or higher.
Mhm.
I think the fact that the Kings were the first team to jump up will eliminate any potential conversation about, like, oh, the Knicks screwed themselves by winning too much down the stretch. Like, there was no world where they were going to get to as few wins as the Kings got. I mean, what did the difference end up being? Like 6 or 7 games, I think, between them and the Kings. Something.
Let me look it up.
But it'll eventually be that the player taken 9th or 10th will become a star. And then it will be the thought of, see, they should have lost games at the end. They could have had this play.
Sure.
It's all a
But
crapshoot.
which-
That's the
which-
draft. It's a crapshoot.
Thank
It
you.
is a crapshoot.
It's 7
Um,
more wins, by the way. The Knicks 137, the Kings
7 more
130.
games. Okay.
If only
So-
they'd played the vets more. Ah.
Well,
Can I circle back to something that
yes, please.
So we're talking about the alternatives to the system, and somebody mentioned, I don't remember what somebody mentioned, but what I wanted to add to that conversation was, to me, like, it's an entertainment product. You're trying to put the best product out there for people to watch and enjoy. Like, I feel badly if you're going to tell me that small markets wouldn't be able to figure out a way to win in that environment of an open market, let's say. But if it's coming at the expense of the product, which it is, because the NBA regular season is hurting, then we're worried about the wrong things to me. Like, we're missing the plot a little bit. Like, if OKC can't survive in that environment, then sorry, maybe we need to find another place for them to play. You know, like, I know that's a little bit harsh, and I understand there's a fan base and there's an economy around an NBA team, and it's a big deal for these cities. I get it. I'm sensitive to it, but, like, ultimately it's an entertainment product, and, like, the product is not as good as it needs to be at this moment. And that's kind of where my perspective comes from.
Especially the regular season product right now.
It's a good perspective.
Yeah.
I know one market that doesn't have a team anymore that I'm sure would love to take back.
Okay,
they're located in
yeah.
they're located in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Not in Canada though, and in between Vancouver and Portland. But yeah, I think that's the thing where also when you have a star in those markets, it's great because it does, like, basketball was still fun when you saw Ja Morant play, from just purely from an enjoyment standpoint. He's fun to watch. There are plenty of other small markets that seem to play well, and they had talent that they were able to do it with. But yeah, if you're shutting down players with such rigor all for this moment tonight and it doesn't work out for you. I mean, but that's the thing, like the Thunder, it did work out for them, right? Because they're picking second and they've dropped a couple of years, or last year at least. So it's kind of like the punishment doesn't fit the crime because they're just going to keep doing it. And it's a shame, but
yeah, to be clear, I don't blame the teams.
It's the system.
It's the system. I mean, the incentives are what they are. I just think it's poorly constructed. And I think we need to maybe reevaluate what the goals are here. And I think the goal is to put out a great product. And I don't think that's the case on a lot of nights in the NBA. And like, so, I don't know. Yeah,
but it'll never happen, unfortunately, because the teams have to agree on it. And there will always be teams bad enough that don't want the system to screw them over when it's their turn. So then they'll worry, then they'll vote against it, against the lottery when they're good, but then some other team will be bad and it'll be that position. So unfortunately, I don't think there's ever going to be a meaningful change because there's always going to be the what's in it for me factor for the teams that project to be terrible.
So if the goal is like the lottery, the probabilities are laid out that incentivize tanking. We've talked enough about the crapshoot of the lottery though. Like we just mentioned Hazonia and Moutier. I could give you some number 2 picks that have been bad or number 3 picks that have been bad. I think, Benjy, where the randomness of the draft can kind of solve some of these problems is like, yes, the entertainment product is bad, but I'm actually not 100% worried that it's as broken as you think it is. I think the fact that we watch a 64-win Suns team not matter is what's actually discouraging, that the teams that are trying to incentivize winning and like the purpose of it was to get that home game on your floor, that game 7 on your floor, and it like didn't matter. Like you lost by 33 at home. That's what I'm more worried about. The tanking at the bottom, fine, lose as much as you want. You still have to nail the pick, which, we're on year 6 of this rebuild in OKC? Year three, actually. Now I think about it, year 3.
Listen, I think several things. I think what you're talking about, Andrew, in terms of like the Suns angle of it, I think where that might play out is more players decide. We've seen it already. Kawhi started this really in earnest years ago. More players just being like, fuck it, I don't care if my sitting out 25 games during the regular season, or what Kyrie did to a different extreme for different reasons.
Yeah.
Things like that happen. I don't think maybe that's a big worry.
What's the incentive to win 60 games right now?
I completely agree. And I think maybe you are going to see more teams more than happy to fall to 3, 4, 5, where I think it gets dangerous now. And I think they attempted to eliminate this a bit with the play-in, is like, you can't completely not give a fuck because the Nets, like they really stressed KD out. Stretched KD out, I guess you'd say, towards the end to make sure, that they didn't even end up avoiding the play. I don't know. I don't know what you could really do about that because you can't force guys to play.
Yeah, I think it's also where American sports has kind of screwed this up is that there's no reward or recognition of regular season champions. And it's probably too late to change that culture. But if that was actually a goal in its own right, which it should be because it's 82 games, it's by far the most games teams play. Obviously, like you look at like the Premier League, which doesn't have a playoff system in the same way, but like the way it works there is the winner of the whoever wins the most games in the regular season wins. That's it. Now we don't want to do that because we like the playoffs. The playoffs are great. But I feel like maybe we could do this. It's just like instead of trashing the Suns and they should be trashed because that was pretty pathetic. But at the same time, like at least after the regular season ends, it's like, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. That team won 8 more games than the next team. Like just to kind of recognize that as a different form, and maybe not the ultimate form, but a different form of greatness. I think
Well, you might get that with
that's an attitude thing, but I think that's real, you know?
You might get that with the play-in though, or not the play-in, the midseason tournament if they end up going that route.
Yeah.
Just one more thought on the other end of the tanking discussion. Like the Blazers, I would argue for not in terms of a whole season tank or a multi-season tank, which is what the Thunder are doing, but in terms of like a sustained period of play over the course of, I guess you'd say about 20 games, 30 games. It was closer to 30 games than 20 games. No team in the history of certainly of basketball, you know, I don't know if there's any other professional sports leagues that have another entrant into this conversation, tanked as blatantly and as hard as the Blazers did down the stretch of this season. They wound up now with they got the 7th pick, right? So like it did not work. Did they learn their lesson because they fell to 7th? Fuck no.
No, because 7 could also, like, we don't know until these teenagers actually play. 7 could be the best player in the draft.
But it's
like,
also
that could happen.
But it's also
math. It's math. Like they know the probabilities. Like everybody knows it going in, and like they make their decisions based on it. Like,
yeah, the probabilities is a different conversation. If your goal is just to get as high a pick as possible, that's different. You're playing the math, like Benjy said.
Right.
As far as the actual talent that you get, that's the crapshoot.
They see it as a 1-year sabbatical because they want to, you know, try to keep doing something, or at least seems they want to keep building around Dame. And they can go into it being like, well, the worst we probably fall to is what, like 9, 10?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they did worst case scenario, that's still worth it. They're walking away with a top 10 pick and they can move on to next season.
Yeah.
And also, like, what did they lose? Like, what was the
nothing. No,
Nothing.
they didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
They might have lost ticket price. I assume they lost a lot of revenue from ticket price to ticket sales and such. That's a real thing. But like that's
is it a real thing? Is it a real thing? I mean,
no, it is.
It is. I mean,
people were not going to games when Dame wasn't there, and that hurts your bottom line.
Yeah, but I guess that's my point, is that Dame once Dame was not going to be there anyway, and your product was going to be something below that which fans in Portland are accustomed to paying for, you might as well just go full bore. The fact that they fell to 7th, no one in that organization being like, man, we really, screwed. We made the wrong decision here. Like I can't imagine anybody's doing that.
I think they're happy with it, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
look, the one Benjy, just very quickly, I thought you were going to go a different direction with the Premier League. I thought you were going to say the one way to really solve the tanking situation.
Relegation, baby.
Oh, that's for sure.
Never happen.
That's for sure the best. That's the best thing in the whole world, and I wish we did it, but it's never going to happen. But that's obviously the best way to do it. Yes, yeah, it's.
We have some super chats.
I was going to say, if you want to read them, go ahead.
Yeah. So, quick one from True Story J. Donovan Mitchell was the 11th pick, Booker the 13th. Donovan Mitchell was actually also the 13th pick. And you don't have to stop at Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker. I mean, look at
the Kevin Knox draft. Every pick after.
Well, I mean,
every pick after
in a loaded draft, mind you.
I mean,
yeah.
Look, the Miami Heat tonight. They're
Bam.
They're
Tyler
quote
Hero.
unquote core. Yeah, they're quote unquote core 4. Bam was 13th, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hero was 13th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't they both 13 picks?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, obviously Jimmy Butler was the 30th pick, and I think Kyle Lowry was the 24th pick. Duncan Robinson, $125 million man, undrafted. Max Strus, undrafted. I mean, they're the obvious, amazing success story. But like, you go around the league, you don't have to be as miraculous finding this talent as the Heat.
Even look at Boston.
Don't forget Highsmith.
Even look at Boston. Just rip off another franchise in a trade, and then they'll tank for you.
Or Dallas. I mean, not the best example because they have Luka, but look at the players who are around Luka.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dallas absolutely
Brunson,
killed it in the undrafted free agent pool, and they got guys who are really good from the second round. Brunson, they traded for Dinwiddie, who was a former second rounder. Bertans, I mean, again, he's not a good player necessarily, but he's been helping them. Kleber was undrafted. Like, it's just Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, they've been able to do well despite their circumstances.
If
you have the right people in place, then the rest, it matters, but it matters less because you can still identify talent in other ways. But you have to have those people in place. And I think that's why going into this, like, obviously I knew the odds for 11, but I was at ease because I finally feel like the Knicks are at a point where they could pick anywhere, and I feel like they can draft an NBA caliber player. The question, of course, is how do they get a star? But it might not happen in the draft. It might happen via trade. It might happen via free agency down the line. Just get good players on the building, and you can sort the rest out later.
And hand in hand with that conversation is also the fact that if you go back and you look at some of the drafts over the last 20 years that were perceived to be the strongest draft, you guys were talking about the strongest drafts. You guys were talking about one of them a few minutes ago, the Porzingis draft. For us, it's the Porzingis draft.
That draft.
But like I don't know if you guys remember. I certainly remember the conversation surrounding the top of that draft and like what it meant to get into the top 3 of that draft. And here we are sitting however many years later. D'Angelo Russell's nice player, right? Made an all-star team.
Jahlil Okafor in the league?
No, he's certainly not.
Okay. Wow.
And then after Porzingis, obviously you guys said it's Moutier, it's Hazonia, it's Willie Cauley-Stein, it's Justice Winslow, it's good job Stanley Johnson. He's saved his career in LA this season, but like that has not gone the way anybody thought. And you could go to other drafts too, and like even more to the point, go back and look if you're bored, you're looking for kicks on a Tuesday night. Go back and look at the top 3 of every draft, literally every draft in history, and you will only find one where it's further enough in the rearview mirror that you could feel like, okay, I feel like I can make judgments about these players, where all 3 guys are like, okay, not disappointments. Like all 3 guys hit, and it's and actually maybe even this one we may have to have an asterisk because Ben Simmons is part of it. It's the Simmons, Ingram, Jaylen Brown draft. Mm-hmm. Is Ben Simmons a hit or is he a disappointment? At this stage, I don't know that we could say, but like every other draft, someone in the top 3 you're going to look at and be like, yeah, that didn't quite turn out exactly as we would have liked. Going back at least like 30 years, I'll say.
One more in a super chat. Hold on. The Truth NBA. Would y'all rather trade the pick with Randall to move up, or would y'all rather just draft a player at 11? I think Randall and a pick is getting you anywhere up,
It might. I mean,
was there a trading Randall option? That sounds good.
Listen, what would we prefer? Yes.
Is it going to be like the Bledsoe type trade that's been thrown out there, or is it going to be for someone who's a much more productive player?
Dude, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Sure, but that also might be a reason why the Blazers don't do it.
I think
maybe they want the 11th pick.
I think we have to take into account the fact that that each of these teams could be dealing with unique incentive structures here, in that the Blazers, I would argue, may not be performing as completely rational actors this offseason. And don't take my word for it. Just take the reporting, which says that we're going to continue to pour all of our assets to build around a 32-year-old who missed 50, however many games this season, and who wants to be paid $60 million when he's 36 years old. So I think there's that part of it. And then for the Knicks angle, to me, I actually think is more interesting. And like, okay, so what? The Knicks get up to 7. Can they then parlay 7 into something else? Because I don't think the Knicks are doing that trade if all they're getting is like whoever's going to be there at the 7th pick.
Shaden Sharp.
I can.
Depends on the board.
You know what?
That's why.
Maybe they think Shaden Sharp. Yeah.
I've kind of jumped on the Shaden Sharp bandwagon. Enough of you that know this stuff have talked me into him.
Indiana, they just never trade their pick.
They also don't trade with the Knicks.
They also don't tank.
Yeah.
So like, but again, like they're an interesting team. Like they you're right, they don't tank, and yet they traded. But like I thought their owner's comments this season were very interesting in that he came out and said like there's a difference between playing the young players, which we're happy to do, and like intentionally losing games with the players that we have. So I think the notion that they could draft a project like Shaden Sharp, whereas traditionally you'd look at Indiana and be like, oh, they're the Keegan Murray team, right? They're the team that's going to take the safe player. I don't know. Maybe they go a different direction. I just I think looking at these teams and where they are, like for us to sit here and try to generalize, like, oh, this team's going to do this team's going to do that. Other than Portland, who we kind of know where Portland wants to be, and I guess Sacramento too. I don't know that we can make any overt generalizations.
This Boston defense is so special.
Yeah.
Like Miami hasn't had one quality look yet, and we're 9:30. We have 9:30 left in the first quarter. Not one quality look.
Well, you know why that is. Duncan Robinson's not on the court.
I'm pretty sure they'd have
Look at
negative
that.
points if that were the case.
Worth every penny, baby.
Can we engineer a Duncan Robinson draft day trade to get us the remainder of that contract?
Sure, you can fund it yourself.
Yeah. Randall for Duncan Robinson.
Value contract? Yes. No.
Yeah. How much longer you guys want to stay on YouTube?
Oh, I don't.
I was gonna say until the Heat score a bucket, which
There you
might
go.
be 2
there you
hours,
go.
but they just did it. So.
Why don't we close out with some final thoughts?
Okay. John, your final thoughts. Unless you were like gonna throw it to
No,
someone.
sure. I'll say something. I mean, I don't have anything particularly original that hasn't already been said, but I really do. If I want to leave tonight with one overarching sentiment, aside from the fact that, like, I just want to be very transparent in case it was not clear all over my face. I am disappointed. I go into every one of these stupid things being like, tonight's going to be the night. We're going to move up. I don't know why, but I just feel like we're going to move up. And then we don't move up because I'm a fucking idiot. So yeah, it's disappointing for sure. But at the same time, intellectually, I know sitting here, moving up to 4 or 3, maybe not 2 and 1. Some special players often get drafted in those spots, but they will have an opportunity to draft probably a star, because I don't know if it's every draft a star is picked somewhere after 11, but in a lot of drafts a star is picked 11 or later. Is it hard to pick the guy because oftentimes it's only one, and maybe they go 11, maybe they go 15, maybe they go whatever Jokic went. But they will have an opportunity to draft a star, but more importantly, they will have an opportunity to draft a player that can help them for a very long time. And I will just I'll plant my flag now. I just want them to make the pick. I want them to make the pick, and I want them to make the pick with the intention of playing whoever the hell they take actual real NBA minutes this season. And I don't care what moves need to be made to make that happen. But for where they are at as a franchise right now, unless there are some machinations which we are not yet privy to, and they could really turn our perceptions of where they are at on its head, they are not at the stage where they should be like trading this pick for a veteran or using the pick and then like burying the guy. Like, make the pick. Pick the guy you like, play the guy, and then, figure out your rotation shit. Because it's not like there's so much talent on this team that you can't find minutes for an 11th pick in a 10-man rotation. So, leave it at that.
Well said, John. Jeremy.
Stay the course. Again, if you're going to invest in your youth, then yeah, keep the pick. I don't see a natural giant step that the Knicks can take where moving this pick makes sense right now. I'm sure people are going to think about punting the pick. It doesn't really happen. It's much more of a like theoretically, but it's usually teams that have the pick in the draft. They trade out for a player, or they trade up, or they trade down, or they just stand pat. But yeah, I definitely agree with what John's saying. And I feel like my hope is, if you are the Knicks, this is the last time you plan on being in the lottery for a while. At least that should be the game plan based on how they're operating. And so if that's the case, if you feel there's a prospect who is within reach and you can trade up for him, I am in favor of that. Obviously, depends on the cost, depends who's involved. We'll dissect it more soon. But if you see star potential and it's attainable, just do it. Cost permitting, but do it.
I like it.
Benjy.
Not too much to add. I would say that It's a good feeling to have faith in your organization to find value at whatever slot. And the fact that they didn't move down is good. So positive there. I would say that it's a very exciting young team. And like, I am more than happy to get really excited about a basketball season watching that young team without championship aspirations. That's okay. We can have a lot of fun as fans watching our guys, our young guys, play hard, play together, learn, get better. That's a successful year if you can do it the right way. And the difference between next year and this past year needs to just be, as Jeremy kind of put it, an investment in that core. And it's okay to play veterans, and it's okay to it's okay not every young guy to play all the minutes, or some not to play minutes. I mean, within reason, like that's okay. But in general, the philosophy needs to be invest in this core, including this pick coming. Let them grow together, let them get better together. Try to win every single game you play. And I think with that attitude, the organization will just keep moving in the right direction.
Well said. Okay. So a couple things. One, I hate tanking with a passion. I hate what it's done to basketball fans. My tweet after it happened, the lottery results, was abolish the lottery. And someone replied with no, tank properly. Okay. So if the only way you know how to win is lose, be a loser. Fine. I am glad that the Knicks tried to develop their team by winning as much as possible. And I hope they're rewarded for it by nailing the number 11 pick. That is number one. Number two, some housekeeping. We have Jeremy going on YouTube tomorrow for Cap Rules Everything Around Me Cream at 7 p.m. So if you're watching on YouTube, jump on YouTube with Jeremy tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are a patron, we will be having our town hall this Thursday for the Ewing and Monroe tier. So jump on with us. Then I think we're doing it at 8 o'clock. We'll do it from 8 to 9. 8 to 9:30.
8 to 9:30. Yeah.
Get all of your takes in. As many of us as possible will be there. And then some housekeeping from the YouTube chat before we sign off. Ranger fans on this Zoom right now. What's the series going to be? That's a question from the chat.
As we get those answers in, can we all what? What are you gonna say?
Playback Rangers, game one.
Playback Rangers. I'm in tomorrow night.
Oh wait, hold on. We got another super chat here from Sam L. Glad to see Ben and Jared. What?
Answer the first question first.
Well, because you gotta have different responses coming in.
Okay.
And you'll read them as they come in, right?
Okay, cool.
Rangers in 7.
Rangers in they don't have home ice, right?
No.
Rangers in 6.
Hurricanes in 6.
I don't think I was leaning toward Rangers and Hurricanes because they're the team I was most afraid of. But that's
They're terrifying. They're so good.
Okay, read the super chat. Sam,
I thought you were asking like for the YouTube commenters to give their predictions.
No, the YouTube commenter asked us. They asked us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I was doing some housekeeping. There's another question they have in a second. So read the super chat. Go ahead, read the super chat.
My bad. Sam L. Glad to see Ben and Jeremy on screen together to prove they aren't the same person 10 years apart. Still not sure there isn't time travel involved here.
Well, if you've listened to me at all, you're well aware that Jeremy is a lot smarter than I am. So don't expose yourself. Don't expose. If you think we're the same person, you have not been paying attention.
I also like
intellectually.
I like that it's 10 years because it simultaneously makes me younger and you older. When the reality is we're like maybe 3 or 4 years different.
Robert Cross gives Sam L his phone back. Okay, and then last question. I guess this is for all 4 of us.
I have one more thing, but yeah, to read this.
So Zach Smith asked, did we do a top 4 mock? So who do you see going to Orlando? Everybody.
Jabari Smith.
Across the board?
I think Chet.
Okay.
I agree with Jeremy.
OKC.
Jabari.
John?
Yeah.
Chet.
OKC would for sure take Chet if he's available.
Uh-huh.
That's like a perfect OKC guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I feel like Paolo's not an OKC guy. I feel like he's like almost like too defined and like they like their projects. Yeah, I would say Jabari there. If not Ivy.
Top 2 picks are set.
Okay. And then Paolo to Duke
To
or
Duke.
Ivy to
To
Duke?
Houston,
What did I
yes.
say? To Houston.
So this is actually really interesting because Houston drafted Senjun last year, and he's really good. Like Tate's probably a backup, and they obviously have Christian Wood, who I wrote about a week or two ago as a possible trade target for the Knicks or for some team out there. I mean,
Future Hornet.
if this doesn't, I mean, man, if D'Antoni takes over as coach, especially if this doesn't seal Christian Wood's fate out of town.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, but sure, Benchero to Houston.
And then
I guess
Ivy
you could say
to
Woods on the
Sacramento?
chopping block.
Wood chop. Well
See
done,
what you
Jeremy.
did there.
Thank you.
And then Ivy to Sacramento. Although, don't they have like every guard possible?
That's where it gets fun.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell.
But again,
Not Donovan Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell.
after they traded Halliburton, they were starting Justin Holiday too. You know,
So
like
Ivy can slot in right there at the 2. Actually, it's actually
Like,
perfect.
I think Ivy actually. My understanding of Ivy is he profiles as a combo guard who is more towards the shooting guard end of the spectrum than the point guard end of the spectrum. I think last season actually is proof positive that that Sacramento would take Ivy, because they took Davion when they already had Halliburton and Fox. Now Halliburton's not there.
But then they traded Halliburton, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I think that proves the other way.
I think they traded Halliburton because they needed to trade Halliburton to get Sponis.
That's fair.
And to get ready healed.
Although actually, now that because I'm thinking of Fox rumors and the fact that maybe they were just like, we got to trade one of these guys. So you might be right there. But then again, hold on, going back the other direction, Halliburton is far more point guard, whereas Ivy, again, I think profiles is more of, although he's not a good defender too, which is paired with Fox. I mean, it's really interesting that all this conversation being said, I'll go with Ivy at 4 to the Kings.
All right, there's your top 4 mock, everybody. Also, Donovan Mitchell, a combo guard, is at the Mets game tonight and was at the Ranger game on Sunday. So look at him acclimating himself to New York City before it's where he plays all his home games.
Hold on, the billows of smoke aren't large enough, Donovan. We need you to actually wear a Knicks hat to like in Times Square tomorrow and just start taking selfies with people. Wait, no, here's where we should end. We all predict what the Knicks do, either
Good
at 11, whether they trade down, who they take, whatever.
Okay.
I will predict that the Knicks trade down because they have traded down in almost every pick they've had, and they take Malachi Branham from Ohio State.
Okay. Jeremy.
I predict that, considering how in both drafts the Knicks have tried to trade up with their first round pick, like their first round pick or their first round pick, that they do attempt to trade up. If they do trade up, that they target Shaedon Sharpe, given the pull-up gravity, the upside, the Kentucky connections, although that hasn't really mattered a ton outside of Emmanuel Quickley in the draft perspective. And if they don't, then I think they just stay at 11 and take Johnny Davis or Tari Eason. Probably Johnny Davis.
Davis or Tari Eason. Interesting. Okay.
Benjy,
you want to put it out there?
I don't know.
I love it.
Beautiful.
I mean, can I echo that? And that's our answer.
I like.
I don't know.
We collectively say I really haven't researched the draft yet, so I truly don't have much of an opinion.
Benjy, I am so not a draft person. I just know very basic facts about a lot of these guys.
That's more than I know.
That's okay. You just commit to a guy. There are no repercussions if you're wrong.
Yeah, it's just recorded.
The Knicks will take.
People know that not a draft guy. That's
Ryan
I got
Terrell
called out for
from
who?
Yeshiva University.
Who?
Yes.
My boy Ryan Terrell.
Yes.
There you go. I got called
Number
out for
11,
something
Ryan.
on Patreon by Jaden. When John and I mentioned that Frank isn't the difference maker that the Mavericks thought he'd be, and lo and behold, They insert Frank, and they win 4 out of 5 games against the 64-win Suns.
He was the answer all along.
Yep, all along. I think they'll trade it for LeBron when
Great answer.
the trade that we've been talking about, John, finally comes through. That and go Rangers is how I will end the night for me.
We were the first one on that, and we'll be looked back on kindly by history when it happens. Last thought. Again, this stuff changes so much. I look back on a column I wrote before last year's draft, not long before the actual draft, where I was like, there's clearly these tiers, and like clearly these players, like the last 2 drafts, actually, I wrote a column like this. Like, these guys are not falling below this. And it happens every year where guys who are perceived as, like, no doubt about it, top whatever, 5, 6, like, don't forget Denny Avdija, everybody had going top 5. He fell. Obi Toppin, everybody had going top 3, top 4. Lowest Cleveland top 5. He fell. Tyrese Halliburton in that draft, no one had him falling out of the top 10, let alone, the top or the top 8, let alone top 10. He falls to 12. Happened last year to guys who we perceived as higher ends up falling. All that being said, and I'm saying this before the draft process really takes hold, and like you start seeing reports about like workouts and how that impacts draft stuff and all that jazz. It seems like there is a tier of guys that, like, the Knicks are at 11. They're kind of securely in a tier where they're going to get an interesting player that is on teams' radars. Whether it's Griffin or Daniels or Mathurin or Sochan or Johnny Davis or, Eason, it's like there's a top 12, 13, somewhere in that, maybe 14. And I'm not even talking about the centers in Mark Williams and Jalen Duren. So we'll see what they do with it. That's it. Last thing.
All righty. Thank you, YouTube audience, for joining us as always. Stay tuned for Jeremy, or I guess tune in for Jeremy tomorrow night on the latest edition of Cap Rules Everything Around Me Cream. And until next time, unless there's some breaking news, we will see you on draft night for the next impromptu KFS live stream. Peace out, folks.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.
Later.